The Toronto Blue Jays have reached their breaking point with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Are they going to extend him? Are they going to trade him? Are they going to ride it out for these next 2 years that they have him under contract? We don't know. I don't think the Toronto Blue Jays know, so I'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And a report came out that the Blue Jays have reached their breaking point with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Take this how you may. I don't know what they mean by that. I don't know if that means that they're willing to trade him, that they're willing to listen to trade packages, or that they're willing to sign an extension. Maybe they want to buy low on the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stock. It's very possible. Everything is on the table at this point in the offseason for the Toronto Blue Jays. But Nick, this is one of the more fascinating storylines that we're going to cover all offseason long. And Vladdy, I mean, it's been very well documented. He's been underperforming over the past couple of seasons. He has been nowhere near that MVP level that he established in 2021. Do I believe he can get back to that? I do, because he is ultra talented and he has that ability in him. He's shown it before, similar to what we're saying about Alek Manoah. But will he get back to that? Will he work tirelessly this offseason? Will he want to get back in the good graces of the fans? And will he ultimately want to make more money on his big time contract? That's the question that he has to ask himself, because similar to Alek Manoah, yet again, he has cost himself a lot of money. He was in line for what, $350 million on his next deal. He's only going to be 27 when he hits free agency. Now that number is creeping below 200, maybe 150, maybe 175. Truly don't know. It's a very curious case with Vladdy, and this report just adds to that curiosity.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a little bit scary that this is happening this early. Before we get into that, we're
Yeah.
on the road to 10,000 subscribers. About 73% of you guys aren't subscribed. It would mean the world if you'd hit that button and help me and Peter out a ton. Let's just get into it. So this is the headline from Buster Only, a pretty reliable reporter, although he has some ridiculous takes. His reporting skills are pretty solid. So this was the headline. Blue Jays reaching tipping point on Guerrero's future. Now I'm going to include a bunch of different tidbits from this article. Feel free to pause as we go through them. I'm going to kind of just give you the summary, the cliff notes of them. But Peter, it's a little bit scary here, the way that this is going. And here's the first bit. So this is kind of starting. It started with the game when he got picked off. Like we remember, some of you have it in your nightmares. The removal of Barrios and Vladdy getting picked off was the start of all of this, mess that's been the last couple of weeks for the Blue Jays. But the Blue Jays are reaching a critical decision point on the Slugger's future with the club, which is the last statement there, with him being unrestricted free agent in 2 more seasons. And he said this. This is a report. Vlad, the salary climbing through arbitration is reaching the tipping point, said Only. This is where the teams begin to say, we can start to replace this. I do think this is going to be the winter where you can start to have this conversation as he nears free agency. Now, I have a lot more reports regarding, Only to show you, but Peter, just going off of that, I don't really know where to, start here. So, I mean, it makes sense. We've discussed Vladdy a good bit. He underperformed last year, but we're both of the mindset that we cannot trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. this offseason. We have to see if he's going to bounce back. And, an extension talk, if he has another bad year next year, maybe you consider a cheaper extension. Who knows if Vladdy's going to want that, or maybe he'll want to test free agency. But whether it's free agency, trading him, I wanted to have him extended a while ago, and now we're at a point where maybe we're happy we didn't extend him, but I don't want to let him go for nothing, as I'll discuss in a little bit. But what are your thoughts on this tipping point from the Toronto Blue Jays report?
Yeah, he's too talented to float around in trade talks. I don't think that's a legitimate possibility for the Toronto Blue Jays. But the difference that I see in Vladdy now, as opposed to 2021, is just the mentality on the field. He was taking it seriously, and he was coming for blood in 2021, and he's not doing that anymore. You watch Vladdy play first base, it's like he's running an all-inclusive resort out there. He's giving you a drink menu, and he's greeting you with that once you get to first base if you're the opponent. And that just doesn't sit right with me. Obviously, he's someone that loves to have fun on the baseball field. He loves the game. But you got to find that balance as well. You're in the 7th inning of a playoff game, and you're hugging Carlos Correa as the Minnesota Twins are absolutely embarrassing you in game 1 of a wild card series. I don't like that. And then, you talk to the media after the game and say, oh, this hurts. This hurts more than anything. Does it really? Because it looks like you're having a blast out there at first base. You're Club Med over there if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And I just don't like that mentality. I want to see him be a little bit more ruthless out there on the field, because when we're talking pure talent, he's got to be up there, at least in the top 5 of the game. All his peripherals stand out. I mean, his baseball savant is bright red. He hits the ball harder than anybody, and he has that ability. He has that talent to be one of the best players in the game. But when you watch other top flight players on other teams, they're not fraternizing with the other team. They're going out there and they want to be the best player on the field, and they want to prove it every opportunity they get. I just don't get that same vibe with Vladdy, but he's still very young. He's only 24, 25. He's got a lot of maturing to do though, and now is the time for him to mature. And I want to see it happen as early as this offseason and heading into spring training. I want to see a different mentality from him, and then there will be a trickle down heading down to the rest of the group, because he is ultimately one of their leaders and one of their best players, and guys look to him.
I threw the flames up. I think you hit the nail on the head there. I agree with all of it. And again, there is a time and a place to be, happy, be joyful. Players' regular season is a fine place for that. Obviously, not every game, but if you're friends with someone, sure. But in a playoff game when you're getting crushed, save it for a text after the game that's not visible for everyone, in the world to see nationally televised. So the tipping point thing now, Peter, we both mentioned that we don't think a trade is feasible, but reports more and more are coming out that the Jays might be interested in exploring one, which is a little bit scary. Is it Blockbuster? Is it like smokescreens? Probably, but it's coming. They're coming, and it's very, very scary. But I agree. I hope the Jays don't do it. But the 24-year-old first baseman made 11 or 14.5 million last season, and will likely see a raise in his third year of arbitration despite a disappointing season. And he compared the situation to MVP Cody Bellinger's and his eventual exit from the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is interesting. I'll get your quick thoughts on that in a minute here. You can pause it here if you want to read the whole thing, but essentially is comparing it with the Cody Bellinger. How Cody Bellinger had a couple down years, and then he got a 1-year contract with the Cubs last year, had a phenomenal MVP caliber season. And the second, he goes on to say that he followed up his 2021 struggles with more struggles. And Vladdy's a hitter. He's not a great defender. Obviously not a big base runner. That's a little bit harsh in hindsight, but I mean, he is not a phenomenal base runner. And then he ends it with this bomb here. If you aren't going to sign him a big, massive contract, you don't want him to walk away and get nothing in return. You want to make sure you get some value, 75 cents on the dollar or whatever it is. If you don't feel like you're going to invest in him based on what happened the past couple of years, it'll be pretty hard to throw 150 million at him. That I disagree with. I think they absolutely throw 150 million at him. I don't think that's even a question just based on how good he's been. But he's making, whether he has sources about it or not, it's making it seem like a trade could be possible and similar to a Bellinger situation, in the sense that the Blue Jays wouldn't want to see what happened with Bellinger, where he just walks away in free agency.
Yeah, I think that's a terrible comparison between Cody Bellinger and Vladdy. Bellinger was hurt and he struggled massively. Like, he had an OPS below 600.
Yeah.
So that's not even in the same stratosphere as Vladdy. And obviously, he had a bounce back year this year. We want him on the Blue Jays. We want him as one of the primary free agent targets, but I don't think that's a comparison. And the Dodgers also had an immediate replacement in James Outman. They had a guy who can take over center field and be that everyday guy for them and step into that role quite comfortably. The Blue Jays don't have a guy that can step into first base and have that same amount of production, if not more, than what Vladdy is providing you right now. So if they don't want to extend him, then, I mean, obviously the worst case scenario is to lose him for nothing, but you don't just trade him just for the sake of trading him because you're going to lose him for nothing. You got to ride it out these next 2 years here with Vladdy. And it is what it is. I mean, they've waited this long for the extension. I think they were waiting to see how Vladdy would progress. I think they were probably talking about it after the 2021 season, but they might have been trying to lowball Vladdy, and then Vladdy wasn't having it because he said, hey, man, I'm an MVP. Don't lowball me here. And then he was betting on himself, and then maybe cost himself a little bit of money these past 2 years, and he's trying to regain that value. So I think if he's serious, I mean, if he wants his money, I think he's going to come out and do great things this year, because he ultimately has no choice. If he wants to get paid like one of the top tier players in the game, which I believe he has the potential to be, then he's got to prove it. He's got to show that he can be one of those guys, because he was ranked in not even in the top 8 in wins above replacement for the Toronto Blue Jays. It's just not good enough. You got to be better if you're Vladdy in all facets of the game. I think he has it in him, and he's just got to prove it this year. It's that simple. And he can do it. He's done it before.
Yeah, and looking at his baseball savant, I mean, you said it earlier. It's all red. He had a phenomenal, you know, really, he has a solid career so far. Obviously, his last season was pretty bad, but you see the 2021 stats there, 1,000 OPS. So ultimately, I don't think the Jays extend him this offseason. I think if they're going to do it, they're going to wait until he might perform better in the next year, and then who knows if they look to trade him. Peter's on the no trade side. I'm curious to see what you guys think. But that'll wrap up the video. If you want to see our last video, click the video on your screen right now. Your sport's been unbelievable, and hopefully the Jays can start to make some changes coming soon. Maybe starting with the coaching staff and maybe Guillermo Martinez. We'll save that for another day. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys later.